Elizabeth Taylor was more than a movie star. She was an icon of beauty, strength, and scandal. Throughout her life, the world followed her every move, every love story, and every heartbreak. But hidden beneath the diamonds, the spotlight, and the glamorous photographs was a truth that only she carried. For years, a woman tried to tell the world about this truth. She spoke, she begged, and she revealed pieces of a story that was larger than anyone imagined. But no one believed her. The woman's name faded into whispers, dismissed as a liar, a dreamer, or someone chasing fame. She was ridiculed in interviews, ignored by reporters, and sometimes even threatened by those who wanted her quiet. Every time she tried to step forward, the doors of Hollywood closed in her face. To most, she was nothing but a background character in the dazzling film of Elizabeth Taylor's life. But what she carried with her was a story so deep that it could change the way the world remembered one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Elizabeth Taylor had always been a figure surrounded by controversy. Her marriages, her affairs, her struggles with health, and her fight against addiction became headlines across the world. But those stories, while sensational, were still public knowledge. The real secret, the one hidden in her private diary, had never been told. For years, the woman insisted that Elizabeth had written things that no one could imagine, confessions, fears, and truths that would shatter the glamorous image people had built around her. The diary became almost a legend. Some said it never existed. Others claimed it was destroyed by Elizabeth herself to protect her legacy. And many argued that even if it did exist, no outsider could have ever laid eyes on it. That was why the woman's voice was silenced so easily. She claimed she knew too much, and without proof, her words sounded like wild imagination. Hollywood had no room for people who threatened the perfection of its icons. But Elizabeth was human. She was fragile. She was flawed. Behind closed doors, she was a woman who had lived through love and betrayal, triumph and tragedy. Those closest to her knew she had moments of vulnerability where she scribbled her thoughts into journals. To her, writing was not about publicity, it was survival. And this diary, the one no one believed existed, held her most vulnerable side. The woman at the center of this storm claimed to have seen it. She said Elizabeth trusted her once, trusted her enough to share pieces of her hidden world. She said the diary revealed secrets about relationships that never reached the headlines, about deals made in the shadows of Hollywood, and about the pain Elizabeth carried when the cameras were off. But because the woman wasn't famous, because she didn't have power, her words were tossed aside like dust. For decades, she carried the weight of being ignored. Her family begged her to stop talking about it, telling her to move on. Friends drifted away, embarrassed by the obsession she seemed to have with Elizabeth Taylor's name. Journalists laughed at her stories, convinced she was chasing attention. Even lawyers and agents dismissed her, warning her that pursuing it further would only ruin her life. And for a while, it did. She sank into shadows, marked by the cruel label of being the woman who cried wolf. But life has a strange way of bringing the truth to light. After Elizabeth Taylor's passing in 2011, the world celebrated her as a legend. Fans mourned, tributes poured in, and Hollywood spoke about her legacy with glowing words. It seemed as if her life had been wrapped up into a perfect box of beauty, tragedy, and triumph. Yet behind the glamorous memorials, something stirred. Whispers began again about the mysterious diary. Collectors, biographers, and even family members started asking questions. And in that moment, the woman who had been silenced for so long felt her heart beat faster. For years she had been dismissed, but now, the possibility of the diary being real made her words suddenly relevant. People who had once laughed began to call her. Reporters who had mocked her wanted interviews. She didn't know if she should feel relief or anger. Part of her wanted to scream, "I told you so," while another part trembled with fear. Because if the diary truly surfaced, it would not just prove her right, it would expose truths Elizabeth never wanted the world to know. The turning point came when a forgotten storage trunk was uncovered. It belonged to one of Elizabeth's closest staff members, someone who had worked with her for years. Inside were personal belongings, handwritten notes, and at the bottom of the trunk, a leather-bound journal. When it was first revealed, people thought it might be another prop, another piece of memorabilia. But when the handwriting was compared, experts gasped. It was Elizabeth's. Every swirl, every stroke of her pen matched letters she had written to friends and lovers in the past. The diary was real. The woman who had been ignored for years suddenly stood in the spotlight she never asked for. Her tears flowed not from victory but from exhaustion. The world had doubted her, crushed her spirit, and forced her into silence. And now, finally, her words were no longer empty. Elizabeth Taylor's diary was found, and inside it were pages that could shake Hollywood history. The moment the diary was confirmed as authentic, the world held its breath. Elizabeth Taylor was gone, yet her voice had returned through ink on fragile pages. Every word she wrote carried the weight of her private battles, her regrets, and her confessions. For decades, fans had seen her as larger than life, a woman draped in diamonds, adored by men, and untouchable in her beauty. But the diary peeled away the glamour and revealed a soul that was far more human than anyone realized. The first pages were delicate, her handwriting bold yet elegant. She began not with stories of fame or glory, but with loneliness. Elizabeth admitted that even in rooms full of people, even when the world cheered her name, she often felt hollow inside. She wrote about how fame became both a crown and a prison. "They see me," she scribbled, "but they do not know me." It was a confession of a woman trapped in a life the world envied but few could survive. She wrote about her marriages, the loves that shaped her, the betrayals that broke her, and the haunting silence that followed the end of each relationship. Richard Burton's name appeared on countless pages, sometimes with fury, sometimes with longing. She admitted that he was both the greatest love and the deepest wound of her life. "We love like fire," she wrote, "but fire destroys what it touches." She revealed moments when she wanted to walk away forever, only to be pulled back by a force she could never explain. Their love was not a Hollywood fairy tale, it was an addiction, beautiful and devastating at the same time. The diary also uncovered affairs and encounters that had never reached the tabloids. Elizabeth wrote of powerful men in politics and entertainment who desired her, some who treated her as a prize, others who feared the power she held over them. She did not name all of them, but hints and initials filled the pages, sparking speculation that would later fuel countless debates. These were not the stories of a woman chasing attention, they were the confessions of someone burdened by secrets too heavy to say out loud. But perhaps the most shocking revelations were not about love or fame, they were about fear. Elizabeth wrote of the pressures placed on her by Hollywood studios. She detailed how executives controlled her image, how they threatened to destroy her career if she refused certain roles or spoke against them. She described contracts written like chains, and the way she was pushed into decisions that scarred her for years. The image of Elizabeth as a powerful diva was only half the truth. Behind the curtain, she was often at war with men who thought they owned her. She also revealed battles with her own body. The world knew she faced health struggles, but the diary revealed the raw pain she carried. She described nights when she couldn't sleep, mornings when the weight of addiction pressed down on her chest, and moments when she begged God for strength. She wrote about the pills, the surgeries, the endless fight to keep her body alive while her spirit felt tired. Yet even in those dark confessions, there was resilience. "I am not weak," she wrote. "I am still standing, even when they want me to fall." The diary also touched on her activism, something Elizabeth rarely spoke about with the same intimacy she gave in her writings. She poured her soul into her fight against AIDS, not just because it was noble, but because it was personal. She wrote of friends she buried, of the anger she felt toward a world that turned its back on them, and of her determination to use her fame for something that mattered. These pages painted her not as a star playing charity, but as a woman whose heart ached for justice.